A fake Romeo charmed more than 100 whammons with promises of romance, then scammed them. Now he's going to prison. He wooed whammons with stories about his respectable family. His father was a judge, he said, and beachfront property in Atlantic City, New Jersey, where he worked as in the casino industry, according to a federal criminal complaint. He told them he was ready to settle down, was more interested in Whammond's inner beauty than her outward appearance. He vowed that distance was not an issue because he had access to discount flights and was even ready to move to a Whammon city to further their romance. Now, if you're a guy, have you ever had women lie to you? Oh yeah, I'm willing to move. I'm willing to go with you. I'm willing to quit my job for you. Like, or even better, just going on a date. Yeah, like how they lead you on, pretend like they're interested in you until you pay for their fucking 3 Michelin star meal. Yeah, after you dump a couple $1,000 into them, then they're like, we could just be friends. It's completely normal. Like this shit's completely normal if you're a guy, but if you're a woman, but federal officials say those are all lies concocted to swindle whammons looking for love through dating sites. A review of the plea agreements and federal complaints showed that Giblin conned at least 100 whammons over 2 decades, coaxing them out of more than $250,000 with false promises followed by requests for short-term loans that were never repaid. Okay, now if we got to the point of borrowing money, I could understand that. But let's just to see this from another angle. How many of you guys know a guy who married a woman who was drowning in debt? As soon as, like, literally the day he paid off her debt, she files divorce papers. Why is that not treated with the same level of legal scrutiny as this? If a woman only marries a man to pay off her debt and then immediately divorces him, that should also be considered a scam. That should also be considered swindling. Yet for some reason, it's not. Like, why the double standards? Now, he preyed on vulnerabilities, promising to end the loneliness of a woman who has recently ended a long-term relationship, or soothing someone who recently suffered the death of a loved one. Yeah, women never do this, by the way. Like they never take advantage of a man like grieving over a dead family member or a previous relationship to jump in and take over. Like both sides do this. Everything described in this article, both men and women are guilty of, but only men are ever punished for it. The only winning move is not to play, guys. As a report by federal prosecutors, Giblin would convince these whammons he was willing to relocate to their locales, but needed the money wires to do so. And they keep falling for it. And despite convictions and serving prison time, he continued to defraud whammons even after he was caught and twice escaped from federal custody. Oh, so he's also an escaped prisoner. Damn. Prosecutors say Giblin even scammed whammons from prison while he was serving time on similar charges. Man, he's committed to his grift at least. And after he became a fugitive for failing to show up at a halfway house in Newark, New Jersey. But his schemes may finally be over. On Wednesday, a federal judge sentenced Giblin to 66 months in prison. How much is that? Like what? Almost 6 years? No, almost 6 years. No, yeah, almost 6. Yeah, for escaping from federal custody and 1 count of wire fraud for engaging in a scheme to defraud whammons over telephone dating services. Now, can we use this as a precedent to get women for the same shit, please? His cons predated Tinder and other dating apps. Wow, he's an OG. So Giblin's scams date as far back as the early 2000s, authorities said, when he was in his 30s and long before Tinder, Bumble, and other dating apps. He's now 58. Now, can we go back to, how long women have been doing this too? Can we? On Lava Life, Quest Chat, and other dating services, Giblin went by Pat, a seemingly charismatic man who assured whammons that their weight, height, and other physical features were not an issue, according to... Yeah, okay, women, I know there's like 3 of you listening, okay? Like those of you who can still put up with me. If a guy ever tells you this, he's lying. Now, he might be telling the truth in that he might care more about your personality or more about your inheritance and money and whatever. The same things you're interested in, right? But there's not a single guy out there, unless he's literally blind, that doesn't care about physical appearance. If a guy tells you that, it's just to make you feel better. Like that's it. But he does care. Everyone does. And it's the same for you. Yeah, you might put up with an ugly guy because he has money or something, but you still care. It still bugs you to some degree, right? And what's really tragic here too is like, barring some massive loss in the genetic lottery or, disfigurements or whatever, most women are at least average looking, like acceptable if they just stay in shape. That's the funny thing. Like most women, if they just didn't pull the pin on the fat grenade, would at least be a 5. Like they'd at least be acceptable. But even that's too much. Like that is too much to expect from them. Which, I mean, it's current year, right? Like, no, these same women, they could show up and have a list of demands. Oh, dude, better have a 6-figure salary, over 6 feet tall, have a 6-inch dick. Like, yeah, you got to have that 666. You got to have the mark of the beast, right? And meanwhile, the guy just says, like, I just don't want her to be fat and a bitch. How dare you? It's too much to ask for, man. Now, the complaint said he created numerous accounts in his name on dating sites in the U.S. and Canada. The prosecutors say he messaged Whammons on the sites, tell them he was seeking a long-term relationship with the real, true, genuine Whammons and exchange phone numbers. Yeah. Again, oh man, like guys don't. If you're a woman, if a guy comes up to you like this, yeah, he has ulterior motives. So Giblin would then build a rapport with the Whammons over long phone conversations before he started asking them for money, court documents said. Typical strategy. He gave them various excuses for financial emergencies, including that his car broke down and he needed funds to free up winnings from a gambling tournament, the document said. Now, that's actually, I actually know a guy who he quit his job at the company we were at to be a professional gambler, and he actually did make decent money doing it. He only works like one weekend a month, like that's it, and then the rest of the time he just does whatever he wants. Like he's still doing it to this day, but like he told me some of the ins and outs of that, and like one of the issues is like once you work your way up to some of the higher stakes tables, you actually have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars that you can't touch. Okay? Like you look at the account and you see, oh, I have $300,000. I'm going to withdraw that and buy a house. No. You need that money so you could continue making money with it, right? So he was in this weird position where like sometimes, he did need money, but he couldn't access it because he needed that money to make money next weekend, basically. Yeah, that's actually a legitimate problem. Yeah, you could like if you are a professional gambler, you could have hundreds of thousands of dollars and actually only have like maybe 2 or 3,000 a month, at least for now. Dude, all he has to do is, work another weekend and he'd be fine, I guess, but that's fine. So his scams predated Venmo, Zelle, and other payment apps. He asked Whammons to wire him cash, usually several $100s at a time, through MoneyGram or Western Union. Some Whammons didn't know how to use the wire services, but he talked them through the process, federal documents said. No, don't worry. I'll teach you how to give me money. I'll show you. I'll educate you. Yeah, prosecutors say Giblin targeted vulnerable Whammons, including widows, Whammons with physical disabilities, and single mothers, including at least one who had recently lost a child. Typical strategy both sides use, yeah. Giblin went after lonely and brokenhearted, figured out their soft spots and attacked those when he didn't get his money. Kathy Waters, executive director of Advocating Against Romance Scammers, told CNN. Oh, does this organization also advocate against women doing the same thing? I'd like to see that. The victims are not only abused financially, but emotionally and psychologically as well. He is a master manipulator who has scammed an unknown amount of people since some never come forward. So Giblin's public defender, Lori Koch, declined to comment when reached out by Communist News Network. Of course not. This is a public defender who probably doesn't even want to be on this case. She's not going to talk to the fucking media, too. That's an extra headache you don't want. He was first arrested in current year -17 for scamming a Whammons in Ohio. Now, Giblin's scams are first exposed after he was charged with one count of extortion in New Jersey for allegedly scamming a Whammons in Ohio. After his arrest, the FBI said he'd used the same telephone dating service to con whammies nationwide for 5 years prior to that. At the time, this. Let me guess. He was known to the FBI, but they did nothing, right? Yeah, that's exactly what I get from this. At the time, he admitted over a 5-year period he had victimized more than 80 whammons. According to a federal report, he pled guilty and was sentenced to 115 months in prison. But that was just the beginning. Waters believes his number of victims is likely much larger because Giblin continued defrauding whammons on and off till current year -1. Some of his victims of romance scammers are too embarrassed to come forward. That's the case for all scammers, if I'm being honest. Like, no one wants to admit that they were the fucking idiot that fell for an obvious scam. Although sometimes it's unavoidable. Like, we actually had a fucking idiot at my previous job that fell for one of those crypto locker scans. Oh, he couldn't hide that shit. The whole company knew because we had network drives locked down. Oh, IT found out who did it real fucking quick. The amount of romance scam victims Giblin violated over the U.S. over the years is a number we've never seen tied to one scammer. You just haven't been looking hard enough. So not reporting the crime is common for those who have been romance scammed. Oftentimes scrutiny goes along with reporting, which leads to shame and embarrassment. Rightly so. Maybe you won't make the same mistake again. To avoid getting the whammons mixed up, Giblin kept detailed notes of his activity on the dating services, including names of the victims, their physical descriptions, what they did for a living, and the type of man they were looking for, according to criminal complaint. Yeah, he did his homework. The FBI interviewed numerous whammons who disclosed they wired him money. As part of the plea deal, Giblin admitted he'd stolen more than $200,000 from whammons over the years. In April of current year -15, he'd pleaded guilty to wire fraud and was sentenced to more than 9 years in prison. He was sent to a federal prison in Greenville, Illinois, but his criminal activity didn't stop. Yeah, if anything, I think he'd get into more trouble for escaping from prison. He escaped from federal custody in current year -10. In late current year -10, federal officials placed Giblin in a residential reentry program in Philadelphia. There, he was given a day pass to find a job in Atlantic City, but he never returned and became a fugitive, according to criminal complaint. I bet he's not going to get that option again. A few weeks later, federal authorities found him in an Atlantic City hotel, gambling away funds from whammons he'd scammed from a telephone dating service while on the lam. See, man, he's able to find marks quick, huh? According to court documents, he checked into the hotel under alias Michael Patrick. Federal agent asked Giblin where he got the $711 in his possession and if he'd received money from whammons. He responded, "There's one chick I've been fucking around with." But Search revealed there was more than one. But maybe he was only fucking around with one. The investigators recovered a cell phone, money transfer receipts, and notebooks containing treasure trove of information, including physical descriptions, interests, and hobbies of whammons he acted with on dating sites while he was on the lam. The whammons were all over the country, including Wisconsin, Minnesota, South Carolina, New York, and Ohio. Man, just this once, I would like to see a woman being given the same level of scrutiny when she maintains multiple boyfriends in different cities just to milk them for their resources. No one ever seems to view that as a problem. So in his note about one whammons, Giblin wrote, has a savings account. Home is paid for, not a gold digger. Well, obviously, she wouldn't be with you. Federal documents said he pleaded guilty to escape charges and was sentenced to 18 months in prison. In December of current year -9, he was freed from prison again, this time to start supervised release in New Jersey, federal documents said. As a condition of release, he was to notify his probation officer of any plans to leave the state, but a federal agent later arrested him at a hotel in Colony, New York. Now, this I don't get. He's already proven that he will escape if given the chance. And you gave him another chance, huh? Yeah, honestly, this is on law enforcement as far as I'm concerned. So while in New York, Giblin used dating sites to meet and defraud more than 10 whammons of between 15 and 40,000. Man, he's a hard worker. 8 years later, he escaped again. He was convicted and sentenced in August of current year -5 to 5 years in prison in order to pay tens of thousands of dollars in restitution. Well, how is he going to pay restitution if you keep locking him up and not letting him scam more whammons? I don't get it. But he continued to scam whammons while incarcerated at federal prisons in Estill, South Carolina, and in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. In July of current year -2, he was approved to be transferred from the prison in Lewisburg to a residential reentry center in Newark. Yeah, gonna do that again, huh? And Fed officials say they escorted him onto a plane in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Giblin's itinerary included a layover in Charlotte. He never emerged in Newark. yeah. He just abandoned his layover. That's right. You still don't realize that this guy does this? Like, seriously? You're just gonna keep giving him these chances? If I didn't know any better, I'd say they're doing this shit on purpose. Like, they want him to keep doing this so they can keep rebooking him to justify their paychecks or something. And while on the run, Giblin posted messages on telephone dating services and continued scamming and receiving money from women, Fredo documents said. Yeah, at least he doesn't need to get a job. Prosecutor said between current year -3 and -1, he defrauded about a dozen whammons out of more than 37,000. He was arrested again in March, current year -1, in Atlantic City. And so he went right back home, and pled guilty in July this year to wire fraud and escaping from federal custody. In addition to a sentence this week of 66 months in prison, he will receive 3 years of supervised release in order to pay restitution of $23,428. And I'm sure he's just going to run away again during his supervised release. You're going to keep giving it to him. So Waters, advocate for romance scam victims, if they're female, I guess, says she doesn't think the sentence was harsh enough considering the breadth of his crimes and just gives him time to plan more ways to scam women. Now, this I can actually agree with her on. It's obvious he has a history of doing this. It's obvious he has no intention of changing. You keep giving him the opportunity. Yeah, unfortunately, the counts don't include every life he caused harm to, she told Communist News Network. It takes years to heal emotionally, psychologically, and financially from these scammers. Yeah, tell that to the guys who thought that they had a woman who loved them only to get divorce papers as soon as he paid off all her debt. No one seems to care about them. In fact, they just get victim blamed. But whatever. This is a double standard that's never going to be fixed. Just know the only winning move is not to play. That is all.